You're doing workshop storage wrong. Or at least I was. Let me explain. When you first start organizing the stuff in your shop, you're gonna have this tendency to think about things as big things or small things. And the big things you'll think about individually. Where do I want my table saw? Where do I want my bandsaw? And so on. And the little things, you'll just kind of clump them together, as in, where can I store all of my small things? And you'll probably even build a few big things to store those small things. That's what led to this project, and this project, and this project. And here's the good news. It's gonna work to solve probably like 75% of your problem. But after a while, you're gonna realize that things aren't as efficient as they could be, and for lack of a better word, sometimes things are just a little bit annoying. So actually, let's go take a look at an example. So this is one of the first things that I built when I moved into the new shop to start organizing. And for the most part, it helped out a lot. But kind of like I was saying before, I'd say that 75% of it is efficient and good, and probably about 25% of it is kind of annoying. So this stuff I grab all the time, like I'm literally talking dozens of times within every project. So the last thing I want to do is be opening up a door or a drawer every time I need to grab it. Plus they look cool. So here things start to break down a little bit. Things like finish, cans of paint, extra screws, all that stuff's great. It's out of sight, out of mind. I can grab it when I need it. I know where it's at. But you'll notice that a lot of these shelves are partially empty, and that's because I've been moving things around the past few weeks, and that kind of illustrates the inefficiencies with it. So today I'm gonna tackle the thing about this cabinet that's my biggest pet peeve. This low portion behind me where we keep a bunch of our tools that are in systainers. And here's why it's kind of annoying. This thing holds some tools that we reach for a lot. We're talking multiple times during a project. And usually we'll use them for 20 minutes and then don't need them again for several hours or days. But because we have to drag out the systainer, unpack the tool, pack it back up, put the systainer away, only to do it again in a few hours, what ultimately happens is we just leave them laying around throughout the project. And they kind of get in the way of working. But we can solve this. Okay, so really there's 6 to 8 systainers that we need access to pretty frequently. Those are Sean's domino, my domino, the systainer where we actually keep the little dominoes, Sean's track saw, my track saw, our 2 sanders, and an impact driver. That said, we have 6 extra sanders that we need to keep somewhere, but we only need to access those whenever we have our workshop classes. So I'm gonna keep those here too. And then we have a few other systainers that we really don't grab that often, so those can just stay in the other unit. So my goal is I want to be able to walk over to where we keep the systainers, open the lid, take the tool with me, and leave the box there. And then if I do need to take the box with me, I can, but 90% of the time we don't. So my first idea was something like this, a 2-tiered shelf where the boxes that we don't need access to are on the bottom. But I realized that if I did this, I would need a huge gap between the top box of the first tier and the shelf for the second tier. Also, I want to create a clamp wall that sits above the unit, so the higher the boxes sit, the higher the clamps would have to potentially go. So my next idea was to build the bottom tier as a shelf that can pull out, that way the whole thing's lower. And I can still grab my tool, walk away, and we're all good. Actually, one more thing. So obviously functionality is going to be what's most important here, but I still want my shop furniture to kind of reflect my personal style, so I'm just going to keep that in mind as I'm building. All right, let's go. Now, I will say, or I guess admit, that I'm almost certainly being too precious about the way that I'm building this piece. It took me about 3.5 days to build and film it, but if I just wanted to put something together more quickly and I wasn't filming it, it'd probably be the type of piece that you could knock out in an afternoon, or at least a full day. So I guess the point is, it's worth the time investment if it makes you more productive and happy. Also, I realize that it feels like I'm kind of quickly glossing over the actual building process of this piece, but if this is something that you think you'd like in your shop, follow me over on Instagram and I'll put up a post with some detailed drawings and dimensions that should give you all the info that you need to put one together. Okay, so with some sort of frame, I guess, of the piece built, we can start putting the boxes together for where the systainers will actually get keepsed. Or where I can keeps them. Sean! Sean! Sean!
What's up?
I'm trying to think of a clever segue for the keeps ad.
Isn't this enough? So if you've never heard of them, Keeps is an easy and affordable treatment for men's hair loss.
Now you're probably thinking, what do you guys have to worry about? Your hair looks great.
But did you know that 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of male pattern baldness by age 35?
Well, I do now, and I'm a little worried.
The good news is, Keeps has revolutionized the way that men are treated for hair loss.
Yeah, by offering generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved products for a fraction of the price.
And you no longer have to go to a doctor's office for a prescription because everything is done online.
And your hair loss medication gets delivered right to your door.
So the sooner you start preventing your hair loss, the more you'll be able to keep.
So if you're ready to give it a try and prevent losing your hair, go to keeps.com/4eyes or just click the link in the description and save 50% off your first order.
That's KEEPS.com/4eyes. All right, thanks Keeps.
Let's get back to the build. Okay, so the sustainer storage is coming out nicely, and we'll check back in on it in a minute. But before we do, real quick, let's just talk about shop storage in general. So I kind of break it down into 3 categories. And on one end of the spectrum, you'd have what are essentially junk drawers. And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you'd have, I guess, Uber-specific storage. Junk drawer, Uber-specific. Out. Then in the middle, where like 98% of your storage should be, we would have, I guess we'll call it hybrid storage. For the hybrid storage, again, there's gonna be a whole spectrum, but I'm usually aiming for something like this. You can see that nothing has a specific place carved out, but it's pretty easy to keep things organized. I know where things are and I can pretty quickly grab them. Here's a few more examples. Now, if you have particular drawers where you need to keep a lot of small things organized, there's actually some accessories that you can buy to help with that. Things like these Rockler Lock-A-Line drawer organizers have been really good for storing all of our CNC accessories. Or even things like these small parts bins that you can get from the big box store. Toss the lid, throw it in a drawer, and you're good to go. All right, let's check back in on the sustainer storage. All right, I got everything all set up and in its place, and probably should have test fit the boxes to make sure they fit before I came this far. I built some pretty tight tolerances, so fingers crossed. Let's give it a shot. All right, it worked. Got like a 1/4 inch to spare.